we think we did some good work in the park. That hasn't been put online yet, but we will pretty quick. But let's go to, I haven't looked at this book recently. Again, this is a photo album of pictures of O-sensei. And the back part of the book is the text for the Art of Peace. Okay, so I'm going to start with a couple of pieces. All right. In no particular order. The Art of Peace is medicine for a sick world. There is evil and disorder in the world because people have forgotten that all things emanate from one source. Return to that source and leave behind all self-centered thoughts, petty desires, and anger. Those who are possessed by nothing possess everything. Okay? And seems very apropos today. The world is in profound disorder right now. And, everything emanates from one source. So we're all connected. We all come out of that. And he's really talking about, the world of I, okay? When he discusses self-centered thoughts, petty desires, and anger. I mean, you see that all out there in the political arena right now. And that's pretty much sums it up. It was going on when he was physically alive and still going on. Now, the next one. If you have not linked yourself to true emptiness, you will never understand, and is translated here as the Art of Peace. Okay, the word peace in the reference here is called Wa-go. Wa, peace. That's the first radical of my name, Wa-da. Peace, peaceful. Da is feel. Wa-go. Okay, so it's peace, all right? But go is another reading for the first character in Aikido, which is harmony. And so, peace. Peace usually means that there's a this and a that, and instead of, they're just gonna be like this. They're going to start to move in ways that are harmonious. And that harmony, the peace is generated through that unity or harmony. So a little different than just peace. We like peace. But after we're physically gone, I'm sure there's some level of peace. We're just not here anymore. And part of what Sensei's contention is, it's right here, right now. The Art of Peace functions everywhere on Earth, in realms ranging from the vastness of space to the tiniest plants and animals. The life force is all-pervasive and its strength boundless. The Art of Peace allows us to perceive and tap into that tremendous reserve of universal energy. We all come out of that. We're all manifestations of it, okay? So, those are just a couple of things to start out. And a little bit of the work that we did in the park, which I thought was interesting, I thought we'd go into it a little bit more. But Friday we went into think. And then there's a world of feel. And then there's a world of sense feel. Okay? And if Aikido has to do with the life force or the ki or energy, we can think about that. We can even feel motion, but the sense feel part of it sometimes is elusive. It's almost like, we have an intelligence center here, we have an intelligence center here, and there's another intelligence center. Okay, so the sense feel is not purely this. I mean, we can go into it by thinking, all right, thinking, analyzing. All right, that's somewhat unavoidable. It's also somewhat necessary. And underneath that, there's the world of feeling, feel. But the sense feel is a little different. And so one of the ways that we kind of went into it, okay, was just putting the hands out here. And this, again, is the very first thing that Robert Fraser Sensei did in my very first Aikido class. Okay, what he said was, everybody's here probably wondering about what ki is. Aikido, harmony with ki, all right? And so right here, put the hands out. And all of a sudden, it feels like a current. Or if I move the hands in and out, there's kind of a magnetism. As I go here, there's an attraction. As I come in here, there's kind of a, they don't repulse, but they kind of, the two, it's like north to north, south to south pole magnets. Okay, so we can, sort of a current or a field or a magnetism. All right, and I can think about it. I can wonder why I'm feeling it, but sort of be in the sense field, just sort of getting into that. Well, guess what? The whole perception of it as a current or a field or a magnetism is a sense field. Now, this is something that we can kind of do, for example, all right, is take your hands. Now, one of the things that happens is that, when I take one hand away, there's a feeling of, we just call it maybe flow through that hand that's extended, but I'm not getting the current. Okay, so we go back. The current goes from here to there and back there to here. Take the hand away. I feel a kind of tingle, warmth in that hand, but I don't feel the field. So an A and a B and an A produce the current field. It's like A and B and A, they are communicating. And that may feel like a magnetism or a current or an energy field. Now, this is something that's sort of interesting right here. They talk. For example, I'm going to change the structure of my right. The left perceives that change. Okay, and for example here, that motion is picked up in the right. So these are what you call energy games you can play. Now I'm going to put this hand out. The feeling of the field is not there, but because I kind of warmed up a bit, even though this hand is out, it doesn't feel lonely. The other one's there. And there's communication. So in other words, whatever the right is doing or the left is doing is picked up by the other. Whatever B is doing, A picks up something of that change. Okay? And so there's communication. Now, for example, the hands can shift positions. They stay in communication with one another. Okay? So those are what I just call energy games. Now the hands are on my lap. They're getting to kind of rest, but they're not dead. They're not like, okay. And it's a little more complex, but after a while you can start to pick up that the right and the left side of the body are generating a current. Right goes up, but left perceives that. Right goes down. Left goes up, the right perceives it. Left goes down. See, they're moving, but they're in constant communication. And for example, that's a heaven and earth motion. If you're a Tai Chi student, that's brush knee and twist step. So these are patterns, they're techniques and forms in different martial arts. But they come out of, to some degree, relationship communication between the right and the left. And anytime I start to just relax and feel, so I can put that on hold and be thinking about a lot of stuff. But if I really get more into the experience of that field or that current, and then when I'm moving, get a little bit more into the fact that so after a while, there's that easy communication between right and left. The right has a vibration, the left has a vibration. It may be slight, but they're in communication. So this has ki, that has ki, and they generate maybe on a basic level we call I-ki, which is that constant communication. Okay? So things like that are very fascinating. I mean, they're energy games you can play. And chances are, if you get into that energy game, there's a pandemic going on, there's some very important meetings going on politically today about validating vote counts or not. But I'm here, I'm conscious of what's going on out there, but oftentimes I get so pulled into that. Now, if you try this, right? These are two halves that are maybe pretending to talk, but they're really not. Or this one's going to hold his point of view, that's going to hold his point of view. There's energy here, but I kind of feel it more as anger. So just by shifting the emphasis a little bit, relaxing, opening, settling if you need to. And the right and the left are not the same. But the dialogue is that current or field or magnetism. Right? If you get there, that's a sense field. You see, you can think about it. You can have feelings. See, when I'm here, there's a lot of energy moving, but it's not, it's like two sides yelling at each other. And if I go to here, there's a feeling of a current or a field. This is this, that's that. But that field, let's just say on another level, this and this came out of that. Right? In Aikido practice, one can be uke, one can be nage. So you can play a game, for example, and start out here. Simply feeling the current, the field, the magnetism. There may be other things. And if I'm just too busy, that field exists, that magnetism exists, but this is too, there's a pandemic, and then there's the politics, and then there's economics, and and those are all going on there. But when I'm caught up out here, I'm just at odds with everything, and I'm at odds with myself. And what Osensei says, if you don't link yourself through what he called true emptiness, it's hard to get Aikido. Too busy, So it's not that you're empty, vacant, exhausted, at your wit's end. You're very present. But there's an emptiness, a quiet aliveness to you that allows you to perceive, to sense, feel. The eye goes around on thinking, and oftentimes it feels, but it feels more emotional. Like if I start to do this, dialogue between the two gets very angry and heated. And here, we're pretending to listen to each other, but to actually pause, settle, open, relax. See, the right has to be open to blending with the left. And the left has to somewhat be open to blending with the right. A blend is harmony. And oftentimes you think, oh, blending is so cool, but the most important blends are when we don't want to blend. Do I really want to blend with the pandemic? Probably not. Do I really want to blend with partisan politics out there? Probably not. But for example, right here, the feeling of the field all of a sudden just sort of grew, woo. And what's interesting right there is I'm picking up, as much as there's this field between my right and the left, there also is a field generated by me and a larger field out there. Sensei is probably what he would call the universe, not quite there. Well, that's a little harder to get. But for example here, feel this field, all of a sudden, it's almost like somebody turns the light on in a room, going, oh. So that's my outer perception. My feeling is, where'd that come from? But the sense feel of it. Now, a field or current has a certain vibe. And all of a sudden, there's a vibe around me. I'm not certain whether or not my own feel grew, or that vibe was something that all of a sudden, when I started to get past a certain point of sense field with the hands, the feeling for me a little bit is like, yeah, somebody turned the lights on and go, I see better. I'm clear about how I feel, but the sense feel of it. whatever it is around me is vibing, and whatever it is in my hands or even my own body right now is starting to vibe back. And I can get really busy trying to figure this out, but if I just sort of say, again, that sense of you're blending with it. In other words, I don't understand it, but I'm just going to be a little present and be open here. And try to open that dialogue, between the personal field and the larger field. What I find, for example, if that, if the eye is too noisy, on a bad day, I kind of think that the whole world is just going to a very bad place. Because I kind of settle a little bit. It's a better feeling, yeah. Willing to blend with it, Then what happens is there's a place where, the world's a world, I'm me, and there's a sense where I start to be able to blend a bit better. And all of a sudden, I'm a part of that light in the room, but it's the interior light. It's a little different than just the hand-to-hand. So there's kind of an incandescence here, which is either being reflected back or this here is awakening that. Those are all just sense feel perceptions. So what we did is we got into a bit. These are energy games you can do to build up your sense feel modalities. For example, I'm going to stand up. I've been sitting. I kind of feel tight in the hips. But that feel to feel, incandescence to incandescence, all of a sudden, you sort of get images like, this is an elevator. And all of a sudden, I don't notice the hips are tight. So sometimes when you're doing that, you'll kind of get sense feel images. Okay, I'm thinking about an elevator or a lift. The sense feel images kind of come around you and under you. Boom, boom, boom. So just simple games like that, actually, it's almost like learning another language. I keep thinking, because my mind seems like it's rotting, maybe I should go back and review Japanese, or even go all the way back to grad school and start studying Russian again, because there's so much Russian stuff available now, But let's do this. Let's go into the other room. Yeah, that should be fine. I did set this up a little earlier. Again, I'm wearing this thing, because I like the imagery of the Golden Bridge. And yeah, I'm a fan of this team, right? And the name is Warriors, okay? But we want to be warriors for something like peace, harmony, love, that sort of thing. And when we do that, there's a shift from being warrior to more the archetype of the champion. You're not a champion because you beat anybody, because you went over yourself. Okay? Now, some of the things we do, for example, movements like this. Well, establishing that simple connection here. And it's really it's fascinating to me that when I start to change this side, the other side on a senses it. Now, if this side's too busy, these two sides are one side's too busy to talk or listen. So when those senseis talking about link yourself to, he called it true emptiness. I mean, some of this is just be very easy. You become transparent and you're kind of in that sense feel modality. Okay, like right there, for example. We talked about that incandescence here, and also the lights go on out there, but I'm also conscious that the light is here. And the two lights, for example, the common image, expansion, contraction, but all of a sudden, there's movement this way, and there's movement this way. And if I check the body, it's not, I'm studying it and I'm doing it. No, it's just in this moment. In some sense, we might say maybe O-sensei, he took a lot of challenges when he was young. He's already Aikiing whoever it is that's challenging him. So just like, for example, or kind of talking, there's an Aiki there. One's going to do this, well, he's picking it up. Okay, so that's seemingly very advanced level, but maybe we can begin to play that a bit. Okay, so in no particular order, we'll put this down for a second. And this is a practice that we should do a little bit of, okay, which is just the back and forth. Again, I would recommend doing this on a hardwood surface or concrete. If you have a good rug, now. Okay. Right, the first couple, the spine kind of goes, okay, this feels kind of hard. Okay. But right about here, I start to pick up a beat, front, back. That place where all of a sudden the room lights up, and then another step, you feel there's an incandescence in you. Okay, so you're establishing kind of an easy connection between let's say your ki, and the ki field around you. And which is, for example, right there are beats. Now what I'm doing is following that beat back and that beat forward. So just as simple. Now I just keep going back and forth. I can be very indecisive here, but we'll run this out. Come back, let that run itself out. The old Hamlet question, to be or not to be. Run out one, you run out the other. And you realize after all those beats are going on almost without you. And you can be the center here. And at that center point, you can decide to go for a ride this way or a ride that way. Repeat. Or you can just be here. In fact, if I just sort of sit here for a little bit, those beats become like a breath. As I kind of open a little bit to them. Again, thinking about it, I get some feeling of it, but to drop into that sense feel mode. Now, for example, right here, my hands are involved. Tied out, tied in. So it's kind of another replay of that we're doing with the body, just with the hands. I notice, for example, I could just go this way. I feel like I'm being pushed by the tide, but if I go this way and this way, I'm riding the tide. Okay with this direction, okay with this direction. And again, the perception of the tide is a sense field. If I check, I'm not empty, but there's a sense where there's an emptiness here. If this gets too busy or this gets too busy emotionally, I can know about this stuff, but I'm kind of like this hand and that hand pretending to have a conversation, but there's the sense where the conversation is a reality. One of them is doing this, well, the other one can be conscious and realize where the other one. Okay. I'm sure a lot of people really wanted a ghetto sensei when he was being challenged, right? But he was in this space where all of a sudden he was establishing a harmony with whoever that other one was by being himself in that more, we call that emptiness, that calm, that quiet, that still, which was not a passive state. Okay, so we do a lot of things around that. And just sitting here, initially I'm kind of aware this hip is a little tighter than the other one. Not sitting seiza, but there's that same beat going on. Now, let's pick up other shapes. Like, for example, here, I'm starting to pick up a circle. And again, all I'm doing is just saying, okay, there's a relationship between me, my own energy, and an energy out there. And as they start to talk, there are certain shapes or flows, like the tide out, tide in, on. All right. Now, after I've done that for a while, I realize there's not an opposing, but an equal, complementary circle going the other way. And I keep playing the circle. And the circle that way. All of a sudden, I start to get the center. Like a column, goes up, goes down. I can know that. I can think, oh yeah, I'm picking it up. That's good. But again, staying with the sense feel place. That, to some degree, it's sort of a contradiction, isn't it? Because the emptiness isn't empty. It's a true emptiness. Empty. Emptiness. And so right here, just by sitting, there's kind of the sense feel of the column, but also of both circles going on. It's like this hand and that hand. They're moving, but they're communicating. There's a harmony, a conversation. If I check here, there's an increasing sense of calm. Too busy out there. If I'm busy out there, it may be fun for a while, then it starts to be a drag. So, here. But just hanging out in that sense feel realm is where we start to really research what we call the energy, both our own system and So there's that place, where you're just feeling that current or that field or that magnetism. All of a sudden, there's that sense, oh my gosh, whatever that field is. And I feel, I don't just feel it in the hands. I kind of feel in the tummy, the core area. The whole body starts to kind of, there's a vibe to that field. All of a sudden, like somebody turns a light on, and there's that perception where that field, or a field is going on out there, and it's talking to the field in here. And that also is a sense of I-Chi. So the vibe in here and the vibe out there are talking. And with the hands, a magnetism, a field, a current. And when you kind of get that larger, so you can be out there, but there's an interior. If I'm just there, I'm kind of window shopping, or I'm looking at things I'll never have. But you got to realize that whatever is out there is matched by you in here, so there's a potential for a conversation. And again, I'm picking up the fact that when this is present and that's present, it's kind of this beat. This beat. And what you'll find, for example, Tai Chi, this is the push motion. Or in Aikido, this can be your Kokyu Ho motion. And then as you kind of get that beat, you also kind of get the potential of circle this way, start to pick up the circle and its partner circle. I'm not saying this circle to arguing whether it's the true circle or this circle. They're both exist. And they blend with one another. In other words, things can go this way for a while. The other one doesn't feel, it's still in communication with it. It goes this way for a while. The other one's still there in communication with it. And then we have a passive, active, passive, a receptive, positive, receptive relationship between these two. So a lot of our sensei's things, like the 8 powers, they're like things he didn't read in a book. He might have, but then again, they were experiential. There were things he kind of felt. Expansion, contraction, tension, release. Both of those are kind of what you call different angles of looking at what you call breath. Unity. Everything comes out of the one, goes into the many, back to the one, unification, division. And all throughout all that, there's kind of that true emptiness. All that motion is going on, and there's that stillness, that emptiness going on, that allows the perception of that harmony, and also increasing perception of who we are. Okay, we're a part of that motion when we choose to be. We're here, I'm just bumping into things. For example, this current is very, very gentle. That could be like a rocket launching. All right. And this can be certain here. This is like boom, turning your lightsaber on. So there are perceptions that come out of the sense field. I'm going to extend the leg out. See, even this motion, I'm shaking my legs out. But there's a beat. These again are just what I call energy games. Can I touch my toes? Yes, I can. How many crunches can I do? Those are games you can play too, but you can also play energy games. There's this motion. Before that motion, there was already a motion that my motion joined with. There's this motion, but before there was this motion that existed that my own movement joined with. So those are just energy games, and if I choose to, I can try to sit in that emptiness. All those movements are going on. One way of looking at it is that emptiness may be the one that the many things come out of. And all those things have a relationship to this original thing. And so Sensei talks about, we all come out of the one. Yes, we do. But he wasn't talking about, okay, I've read it, I understand it, I think about it. Sometimes I understand it, sometimes I don't. It's just more of an experiential, in the moment, feel, experience. It's a sense feel. And there are perceptions that come out of a sense field that are different than thinking or the emotional aspect of feeling. In fact, when I check back to not my emotional state, because my emotional state is I kind of like this because it's fascinating to me that there's a whole other dimension of energy movement, and I'm a part of that dimension, that there's this harmony that exists in that dimension. And we can try to copy it here or occasionally touch it, but with a little extra. Okay? So standing up. And of course, there's the world of form. Gotta know how the hands and feet move. Kind of offering the hand, like this is kind of like already like a river. And this is all of a sudden the river turning here. Now it's going to turn back on itself a little bit. Then we have a form, don't we? And all that's going on out there. No, there's a increasing sense of body feel in that sense field, that your body starts to feel. One thing I noticed, for example, is you kind of get, it's kind of like stakes that go down, but if I'm this way, but there's a depth down through the feet. That's kind of, again, a sense feel. In fact, this direction and this direction, they're both going on. And if I get that empty space, like I can shift kind of freely between the directions. Okay? So those are movements that again, a lot of the stuff you just got to play with. If you don't, you kind of stay up here or here. Or you can perceive those things out there and touch them occasionally. But it's really important to realize that just like initially you need the right and the left to get that. This one feels lonely after a bit, but on the other hand, this is going on. There's just in different positions. And all of a sudden, oh yeah, there's a flow out both sides of the body. It's very quick after a bit. When this and this start to quiet down, be easy. Okay, a lot of what we term the I. Okay. Now we do certain things like the thumb down, thumb up change, but as we go here, for example, movements like that. For me, right and left, that may be a little hard. Initially, we're learning forms. But right about here, boom, 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 boom. Okay. Like for example, this motion and this motion, this motion and this motion. If I get a, they can be parents with offspring. Boom, 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 boom. Now these are more complex patterns. Okay, figure eight, double figure eight with both. Boom, 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 boom. This, 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 this. This, 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 this. And again, there's the one. And there's the many that come out of that one. Oh. And I try to, for example, get. See, if I'm in there without this, it can be kind of chaotic. It can be very, very vast and kind of dreamy, but then again, all of a sudden, it can turn into a nightmare. So you establish your own interior field. And then there's that sense, for me, it's like I'm in a dark room, but I'm meditating so much, all of a sudden, the lights turn on. So I realize the light in here, that was always going on, but all of a sudden, it activates it through my sense field perception. Boom, 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 boom. So movements like this. Boom, 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 boom. And each of those, for example, right and left are talking. Right and left are talking. Right and left are talking. This direction, that direction. This is a parent direction. That's a parent direction. They give birth to offspring. Boom. This kami, that kami creates many kami. And this emanate from, so there's my own center, and there's what O-sensei called the one. And if I could ever do it, I would take my center in the one and sort of get that same sort of, and then boom, boom, boom. But union with one produces the many, what he calls takefusu aiki. Boom, 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 boom. So if you start to, I would imagine, pick this up, start to move. Boom, boom. And we can learn to do this better, but let's go back to the beginning. Well, we started out with this, but even more than this, there's this, and there's this, and this, and this, and this, and they start to talk. Okay? Boom. And there's you right in the middle. You're kind of the center. Two forces. And you're kind of the center, the child that unites them. And the combination of you, the child, the center, and the two parent forces. You generate a field. And there are currents in that field. There's this force and this force. Right? There's also a center. And I'll write it by and also off of those movements. Boom, boom, boom. Your own right, your own left. Boom, boom. Come together. Boom, boom, boom. But your own right, your own left, as a center, also tune into the, let's say, the two parent forces, and boom, those two parent forces co-create or procreate, and all of a sudden you have many different forces moving. Boom, boom. There's a fancy name for that in Japanese, probably misogi harai. Boom. It's almost like our reality is covered with a lot of dust. So our senses are clogged. That's Basico Sensei calls it Misogi. So all of a sudden, when you start to wake up, you start cleaning that dust off. Boom, boom, boom. And kind of like the original shine of creation is going on. Ultimately, that original shine or light's going on through us. As we kind of get this, and all of a sudden begin to realize, oh yeah, there's a larger field of that light. And my own, and as I start to talk, boom, 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 boom. And right here, there's an increasing, that feeling of the emptiness becomes a fluidity or a lightness. Some of the forces out there are very heavy. Boom. But they're moving in harmony, and you are kind of that center right here that is participating in that harmony. Okay. So those are just a couple of things that we kind of do. You can utilize. This is a short one, which I like for inside. This is a little longer one. The same thing. Establishing yourself as the center. As you do that, there's an interior shine. All of a sudden, you realize there's that outside, and the two start to dialogue. Boom, boom. And again, that direction, boom, 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 boom. There are forces and sub-forces and sub-sub-forces, and boom, boom, boom. And they all kind of come out of the attraction, the potential harmony between the two parent forces. And you're kind of the pull, the child that unites them. And then boom, 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 boom. And the movements become very free and fluid. Okay. I'm picking up, this is, for example, by comparison, this is pretty heavy. And we've been going into the various movements. Right? This is all of a sudden a lot heavier. Okay, now I start to kind of, for example, get into that heaviness, trying to move that heaviness a little better. But establish that same field here inside me, talking out there. I begin to realize in that field there are fluctuations, there are reverberations, and boom. Okay, now I can try to approximate that out there. This is a little bit like two things out here trying to talk, pretending to talk, but they're really not. That's a different thing. Yes. So establishing that feeling of alignment in here and the connection out there. Just pick up beats, vibrations. Boom. So instead of up and down, there's a beat. Okay. Now, when I picked this up, there was a sense it's heavier than what I was using. And of course, world of matter, and I'm out there trying to get better in that world. But what if there was this finer realm going on? Well, since this is manifest, it's our ordinary, our dense, heavy world. But there's kind of a hidden world, like a lot of what we're doing when we're sense feeling is the hidden world of energy movement. So if I kind of start to pick this up and how it talks with that out there, the echo reverberations between the two, boom, boom, boom. I'm in this matter world that's heavy, but I'm so connected to that and that. So that's a practice I like to do because a lot of times I'm here and I'm in the dream of it. And then, I say, okay, I better get out there and work and swing it better, faster, So, again, since they said the manifest, hidden, divine. So, it says travel freely. Now, if I'm traveling freely, maybe I can be in this more manifest, heavy dimension and still be connected to. There are other types of movements you can do. Okay. Like we utilize this. When utilizing partners, oftentimes the partner, the shochiku is really using this much more like we use the spear or the staff. The things that, some of our sensei's words, for example, move like a beam of light. Moving, okay, move. But if I kind of get that and that, boom, the movement, boom, move like a beam of light. That's different than just sort of being able to do the movement better. Move like a beam of light. How does a beam of light feel? It's a sense feel. It feels like that. Now for that, boom. Move like a beam of light too. Fly like lightning. Boom, boom. Where do those sensei get those images or sayings? It probably was in this sense feel dimension to some degree. Boom, boom. So here, okay, now I've got to change to, so there can be words. Move like a beam of light. Move like a beam. Fly like lightning. And then strike like thunder. Fly like lightning, strike like thunder. Fly like lightning, strike like thunder. Boom. And the last one was move in circles freely around a stable center. If you establish this, and this, and this, then you start to feel the circle spirals, boom, 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 boom. Each of these is a circle, and you're switching track from circle to circle to circle to circle. You're moving freely around a stable center or core. Center, core, core, center. So those are things that I do. It's in my own personal training. Boom. It's easier. I start to pick up the heavy, and I got to watch it because I start to get into that heavy as opposed to doing the alignment practice. Let's see. Yeah, we are right about there. So I'm going to take this. We're going to go back into the other room. Yeah. Oof. So those are just things that we kind of covered a bit on the Saturday class outside. So just try to review them. Anybody with a question or comment on that? Just working the hands is actually good. Okay. In other words, just get that, then you'd be surprised. This side is feeling what the other side's doing. Anybody get that feeling?
Yes, Sensei.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, go on.
So a couple things. One is obviously there's a skeletal muscular connection between the hands that is just on the pure physical realm. So that even if you move one, you can kind of feel it. But it's more than that. Like when I first did Tai Chi in Chicago, my Sifu had us do the hand thing to feel that, right? Like very first lecture demo I ever saw him do. Something I've been thinking about, because I have a little tendonitis that I've been working with these past couple of weeks in my left hand, which is my dominant hand. And it occurred to me, I don't know why it didn't occur to me before this class, but in this class, it occurred to me, maybe I should do more of this and that might help. With right?
Well, we have a physical condition, right? And there are physical solutions for it, but oftentimes if you get the energy moving. Robert Koga, who taught police Aikido tactics, very, very, very sorely missed. He passed on a couple of years ago. And so what he told me once was, Jack, I have a torn bursa sac in the shoulder. I can only raise it to here. And I said, yeah, in class, you're going this way all the time. He said, yeah, maybe I'm starting to understand a little bit of what O-sensei had, because O-sensei, as he got older, he got physical limitations, but he stepped on the mat, didn't have them. So, the finer dimensions can support our physical motion.
Yeah, okay. Dave Brubeck did the same thing. I saw him when he was about 80, and he sort of hobbles over to the piano, sits down on the bench, drops 60 years, plays like a madman, and when he's done with the set, he stands up and he just hobbles off.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. That a lot of times you do get that, right? I remember watching a video where Stephen Curry's father, Del, is really one of the all-time great three-point shooters. But I think he's a commentator for the Charlotte NBA team. And so he has his dad try a half-court shot. I don't know if his dad really warmed up or not, but his dad hits it from half court, and Curry just cracks up. It's a little bit like, okay, you're pretty old, you haven't shot in a while, so you step out there and just cast one up and it goes in, right? It's past muscle memory. You see what I mean? If you have a sense-feel perception of something, you may touch that sense field, which activates your physical on a totally different level. Totally different level. And so, we get caught up in being busy trying to fix a physical problem. When if we were, for example, to try to get more into the finer energies that exist, they might support the physical, you see? So, yeah, I agree with you. It's amazing sometimes to see that. Anybody else with a question? That these are simple games that you can play, just to sort of develop your sense feel muscles, so to speak. If you develop them, you develop them. Okay? A lot of times what happens is the Aikido movements are good, but they're actually, if you look at it, they're to teach you about the sense feel. And what happens is people you need a certain amount of technical, like, okay, I'm going to twist the wrist. But on the other hand, if there's that motion going on, right? Twist the wrist. if there's that motion going on, and that motion is going on through you, and it then starts to resonate with your partner, it's a little bit like you and your partner become the right and the left. And after a while, they're communicating. They can cross sides, they can go up, down, but they're in communication. That's kind of, that's, you know, to some degree, it's a very simple way of understanding Aiki, right? It's not just ki, this got ki, this has got ki, but together they create Aiki. Or conversely, Aiki was what created this side and that side anyway. So as they start to kind of go back, they discover they came out of the original, okay? That's basic O-sensei if we kind of go past a lot of the Shinto words. Anybody else or anything more, Cliff? I'm just a practice, you know, just in terms of just establishing that stillness. Oh, I remember the Aikido. I mean, I used to do some meditation with karate, but it was just part of the Mokuso. You're supposed to sit. Okay, you know, that was. But, you know, when we got into Aikido, you know, Robert Fraser used to have us sit and settle. And we did a lot of energy work my first quarter. So the quieting, the I being easy with itself, whatever you want to call it, whatever's going on out there, you're in a blending modality with. It starts to calm, breathing starts to get deeper, starts to go from breathing to breath. I know I'm kind of in a good place with that. And then, you know, the perceptions, the energy, you know, things can go that way, but they also can expand out. This little thing can all of a sudden be like that. Or this little thing can also all of a sudden be that way. So those are energy games that sometimes we forget we can play. No uke right now for most of us, unless you're socially isolating with an Aikidoist. But we can come out of this saying much more conversant with the energy and also with ourselves. As we go into the finer dimensions of energy, we're also, and initially it's a little tricky because, you know, I'm in those dimensions, I'm in a very different level of I self. That's why, you know, the whole thing with, you know, whether you play the piano or you're a martial instructor with a torn bursa sac and you can't do this, but in class you do this all the time. That's the finer dimensions supporting the physical motion. That's a pretty good little thing to have, right? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we're on for the Tai Chi, so I'm going to be here 7:30 on Wednesday. There's an Aikido class Wednesday afternoon. We'll do the evening, okay? And we'll review the 30 and just go into the 54 again. We just showed a little bit of the 54, okay? Okay, if you want, email me and I'll send you a list of the 54, okay? So let's see, that's about it. I intend to be here. No, actually, I think what we'll do, we'll take the Friday noon off, but I will be at the Saturday outdoors. Okay, so just observing Thanksgiving. We got a lot to be thankful for. You know what I mean? There's a whole expression in Japanese called kansha, it's gratitude. And it's just a finer vibe. I can be totally at odds with what's going on in the world and, you know, all the stuff we can't do and everything, but, you know, hey, I've got a roof over my head. I got food. You know, I'm not going to starve. I'm not going to have to go out in the street and be exposed to all that stuff going on out there, you know. So, you know, to shift, again, that's a shift from I to I self. And the energy games are one way of doing it. You'd be surprised what you pick up on. It's like, oh my God, that changes. It's just almost like, you have this current and that current, but this current, that current, they give birth to that. They sort of, in some sense, the kami procreate. So Izanagi, Izanami, Amaterasu. I don't know if it went that way. I'd have to kind of check the actual sense of the, because kami, this begat that, begat that, begat that. But the first couple of generations of kami were all hitorigami, which is they were all immaculately conceived. There was no masculine, feminine. They came out of the one. And then this and that got together and started to procreate a whole other level, another level, other level of kami. Okay? So there's the amatsu kami, which are more the heavenly kami. And then there's the kunitsu kami, which are still kami, but they're more the earthly kami. Okay? Now, since they kind of stood in that floating bridge between the two. Okay? Now, that to me is worth a little bit of research around. Okay, so thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to leave the meeting.